Hi there, my name is Ron Rogers, and this presentation is titled A Very Windy Flight in my Turbo 310R to Iowa City. Now I'm trying a few things here. I synced a few cameras together, so I've got a display of my instrument panel and also the outside view. And since we're gonna come into Iowa City here, I'm going to shoot a practice RNAV approach to runway 30. Now, this was an extremely windy day. There's the approach there, and I've got it loaded up in the flight system there on the 750. I've got two G500s, one on the left and one on the right, and then I've got a Garmin 750, and below that a 650, and I have the electronic flight instruments over there. Now you notice how it's bouncing around. This was an extremely windy day. The winds were 20, gusting over 30 knots, and you can see that it was quite a bouncy flight there. I've got the approach programmed, and I'm going towards the initial approach fix, which I'm going to intercept. Because of the cloud cover, I'm a little bit lower than what would be the normal altitude, but I'm going to intercept that and then descend down, approaching the final approach fix to what would be the normal final approach altitude coming in on the approach. Now, you notice it's very bumpy, and one of the interesting things about this system is that they've got a little pad down there that you're supposed to put your fingers on in an effort to stabilize you, but in the turbulence it doesn't work. And in the over 50 years that my wife has flown with me, this is the very first time that she's ever gotten sick on a flight. But anyway, we're proceeding to ICWAR, I guess you'd pronounce that, and the final approach fix is current. We're doing a practice RNAV approach to runway 30, and runway 30 actually is the runway I soloed off of in Iowa City a little bit over 50 years ago. So we're going to come in, shoot the approach. It's all on the autopilot here until we get just to the missed approach altitude, the MDA. And since this computes a glide path, probably a little hard to see even with this view, I'll probably try to get a tighter view next time. But we're going to descend to the MDA of 1,000 feet. Field elevation is 684, and the touchdown zone elevation is 658. So I'm programming the various functions there. Now I've started the descent on the autopilot there, put in a vertical descent, got the altitude listed there, so it's going to capture and go on down. Now I had a person mention about, when I got tired of 35 gallons per hour on the engines, go to a 210. Well, I operate lean of peak, and that little horn there is the altitude alert. I'm 250 feet from leveling off on the final approach altitude. Now, I run lean of peak, 2200 RPM roughly, and 32 inches of manifold pressure. And you notice because of the turbulence that I got the alert horn again. I am just getting bounced all over the place. This is a very rough ride. It may not quite seem it, but the camera on the instruments there, as you can probably see, is bouncing around quite a bit. It's on a pole, but the turbulence is such that it's kind of bouncing all over the place. But anyway, we're coming into Iowa City, and it computes the glide path, and this STEX 55X is just a super autopilot for a small airplane. Like I said, it will the electronics, the avionics will give you a computed glide path. This will intercept it, and it will actually fly the glide path down. My wife, who's not a pilot, could virtually get the airplane on the ground, even though this is not a precision approach. Flying this approach coupled will get you right to the runway environment, where virtually all she would have to do is pull the power back to come in and land. But you can see it's bouncing around there quite a bit, and of course you can see part of her Garmin 500 on the right side there. coming into view. Now you can see the airport off in the distance there. It's probably a little hard to pick up. You can also see my yaw string. I was doing some single engine work kind of to determine if my airplane actually had the book values, because working for Cessna Flight Test, I know how the book values were established, as it were. So I just wanted to make sure everything was kind of copacetic and I was getting appropriate performance out of the airplane. I just left it on because it's a nice little kind of help on making sure that I'm properly trimmed up rudder-wise and going straight. So here we are coming in, adjusting the scale on the 750 there. I also have the weather depicted on there. There's not really too much of weather to concern about, so it's not much of a depiction. And you can see us now. The autopilot is working quite hard to maintain the course heading, as you can see. But we're coming down, we're getting closer. And of course we do the final gumps check. Gas, making sure we're on the main tanks. Undercarriage, which is the 3 green there. And there I'm coming out of my approach altitude, coming down to the minimum descent altitude. And of course, because of the windy conditions, I'm only using 15 degrees of flaps. I usually use full flaps, but it just bounces you around quite a bit, so I'm using a lesser flap setting to bring the aircraft on down and make it just a little more controllable. I've got plenty of headwind with this 20 gusting over 30, so I don't have to worry about landing distance at all. And you notice even with the autopilot on, the airplane is bouncing around quite a bit. And the airport at Iowa City, a very historic airport in early aviation terms. It was one of the cross-country airports for mail carriage, and it had the lighting system where there would be lighted towers across the ground, because there really had not been established any navigation systems yet. So they followed a bunch of lighted towers, and they're probably mostly all gone now, but at one time you could see these lighted towers out in farmers' fields that the airmail pilots flew, and Iowa City was one of the stops. It was also a big World War II training base for pilots, for primary training, and they had a big facility there. And I flew with a bunch of captains actually who were housed at the University of Iowa in the dormitories there, and were going through World War II flight training when I was a brand new pilot at United. All right, you can see yourself coming in here. There's the city to the right, the runway coming in to view off the nose. And we're getting down to minimum, so I'll be clicking off the autopilot. Yep, that's the autopilot click-off noise there. So now I'm taking over manually, and it doesn't get too much more bumpy, but it is a pretty good ride there. You see the red on the screen up there? That's my terrain database there that's telling me you're getting low, and you know, if you don't have an airport out there, you're probably going to run into something, because it's getting pretty rough. And you notice how the camera's actually moved off of my main attitude indicator because of the bumpiness, and you can see how bumpy it is coming in to land. And there I pull the power back and touch down. And to save on the brakes, I just let it roll, because the taxiway is quite a bit a ways up here. You can see on the navigational display the pictures of the runway there, and also the taxiways. And I'm taking the taxiway that comes off of runway 30 there, going back to the main ramp at Iowa City. And now that I'm clear of the runway, I'm going through my cleanup on the airplane. Giving the engines time to cool down as I taxi in, because the turbochargers get pretty warm and they need to come on and cool down so we don't get any coking of the oil or anything like that, and things can all stabilize. And of course, you notice my terrain display there. The airport is all in red because it's saying, you know, at this altitude you're going to hit something, so be cautious. And this is the main, coming up to the main terminal to the right here. You'll see it as we swing around on the taxiway. I remember when Ozark Airlines and United, Ozark flew F-27s out of here, and there's the tower now, with the lighted tower, and the terminal area is right there in front of us. It's now owned by the local FBO. But they had ticket counters in there, and they had United Airlines in DC-3s that flew in here. We had airline service, and there's the terminal off to the left. And also, like I said, Ozark with the F-27s. And I'm just going to bring it over here and park it. And with that strong wind, I want to, and it's about 30 degrees, so I'm worried about getting the engines too cool, so I park the tail towards the wind and put the rudder lock in, of course, once I land, and just line it up. Check the turbine inlet temperatures on the turbochargers there. Check their temperature and make sure it's below typically 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Looks good. Pull the engines to cutoff and go through the shutdown checklist. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.